Have you ever felt like the world reacts to you differently? Like your presence carries a weight that others can't quite put into words? They call you intense, but what they truly mean is uncontainable. You don't just exist, you command the space around you. People sense your energy before you even speak. Some are drawn to it, captivated by the power you radiate. Others are unsettled, intimidated, not by what they see, but by what they feel. Because you are not just light. You are the storm before the dawn, the force that dismantles illusions and shatters the fragile masks of those who live in falsehoods. You don't seek permission. You don't fit neatly into the boxes the world has built for people like you. You were never meant to. You are both creation and destruction, a being of duality, forged in the fire of adversity. The universe did not make you ordinary. It made you a force. Your light guides, your presence heals, but your darkness protects. It is not weakness, it is not shame. It is power, the raw and untamed force that shields your purpose from those who would seek to diminish it. There will always be those who fear what they cannot control. They will whisper that you are too much, that your energy is too strong, that your will is too unbreakable. But that is only because they have never encountered someone who does not bow, who does not yield, who does not shrink to make them comfortable. You were not made to be liked. You were made to be respected. You were made to disrupt. You were made to transform. And when they try to define you, when they try to tame what was never meant to be caged, let them tremble before the truth. You are both light and shadow, order and chaos, the healer and the reckoning. You are the storm. You are the fire. You are the force that cannot be stopped. The world has always feared the ones like you. And that is exactly why you will rise. A force unlike any other surges through reality, twisting fate with an unseen hand, ensuring that every action taken against you triggers an unstoppable sequence of events. Those who choose deception or betrayal believe, for a fleeting moment, that they have gained the upper hand. Yet, what they fail to realize is that they have ignited a force beyond comprehension, an unseen mechanism that dismantles their carefully constructed world piece by piece. At first, the shifts are subtle. A sense of unease creeps in, as though the fabric of their life has begun to fray. Minor inconveniences evolve into a relentless cascade of obstacles. A crucial opportunity dissolves before their eyes. Their once loyal allies withdraw, their voices filled with hesitation and suspicion. The stability they took for granted begins to crack, revealing fault lines they never noticed before. It's as if an unseen storm brews beneath their feet, and each step forward only leads them deeper into its eye. What was once coincidence now feels like an orchestrated downfall. Relationships unravel, support systems collapse, and shadows of their own actions stalk them at every turn. The choices they made in secrecy now echo in the open, exposing their true nature to those they sought to manipulate. Their mind becomes a battlefield, plagued by unrest, the weight of their misdeeds pressing down like an iron vice. As their world distorts and crumbles, a single truth remains undeniable. What they set in motion cannot be undone. They have awakened a force that does not forgive, one that does not simply restore balance, but tilts the scales with unrelenting force. And while they stagger through the wreckage, lost and grasping for redemption, you remain unshaken, an enigma beyond their understanding, standing at the threshold of a reality they were never meant to challenge. No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue which rises against you in judgment, you shall condemn. Isaiah 54:17. They come like thieves in the night, thinking they can take what was never meant for them. Like parasites, they believe they can latch onto your spirit, drain your essence, and walk away stronger. But what they fail to realize is that you are not a well to be drawn from. You are a living flame, a fire set apart, burning with a force that cannot be stolen, only feared. These are the ones who build their power on deception, who thrive in the shadows, whispering sweet lies and false intentions, hoping you won't see their true hunger. They weave their webs, casting their hooks, convinced that you, like so many before, will fall into their grasp. But the moment they reach for you, something unexpected happens. It is not you who weakens, it is them. Like a mirror turned against the sun, your energy does not submit. It reflects, magnifies, sends back, tenfold, what was sent your way. What they thought would be an effortless theft becomes their undoing. The more they grasp, the more they lose. The more they attempt to feed, the more their own reserves are stripped away. They begin to feel it, not all at once, but in waves, in the subtle tremors of their own unraveling. The confidence they carried like armor begins to crack. The charm they relied on falters. The words they once wielded so easily slip from their grasp like sand through trembling fingers. They thought they were in control, but now they stand at the edge of something they do not understand. What they have encountered is not mere resistance, it is divine rejection. It is the natural law written into the very fabric of creation. The unclean cannot feed on the anointed. A storm begins to stir within them, not of your making, but of their own undoing. Their stomach tightens, their mind clouds, their body grows heavy with an exhaustion that cannot be explained away. They stagger beneath the weight of what they have done, underestimating the force that now stands before them. And you stand unchanged, unshaken. This is not a gift you asked for. This is the weight of the mantle you carry. You were never meant to be consumed, never meant to be used as a source of strength for those unwilling to cultivate their own. You are the chosen, and the chosen do not pour into broken vessels. So they retreat, stumbling away, still reaching for something that will never be theirs. They will search elsewhere, but deep down, they will know the truth. They did not leave empty-handed because you withheld. They left empty-handed because what they sought was never theirs to take. And the void they feel now, it is not because you drained them, it is because they never had anything real to begin with. What should have been an effortless theft becomes a siphoning in reverse. Their movements slow, their thoughts scatter, and an inexplicable exhaustion seeps into their core. They stammer, their practiced words slipping from their tongue without weight. A creeping awareness settles in, the realization that they are the ones being unmade. They try to pull away, to sever the exchange, but the damage has already begun. Their once thriving presence fades into something diminished, hollowed out by their own failed attempt. And yet, you remain untouched, your energy unshaken, fortified by an unseen power they will never understand. In the aftermath, they retreat, their once reliable methods now useless against you. Rest offers them no peace. The weight of the encounter lingers, a relentless reminder that what they sought to take has instead cost them everything. Meanwhile, your presence stands as a force beyond reach, unyielding and absolute. A paradox they will never solve. A presence that unsettles. An unspoken force that draws out what others have long concealed. The weight of hidden wounds and buried fears surfaces when they stand before you. Not because you expose them, but because your very existence acts as a reflection they cannot escape. Those who step forward to break you find themselves unraveling instead, as the shadows they've ignored twist into an undeniable reckoning. If your heart overflows with God's blessings, let that love shine. Click the super thank you button and give $20 or more to plant seeds of faith that will impact countless lives. Your generosity reflects His abundance. Be a vessel of His grace and watch His kingdom flourish through you. They arrive with carefully sharpened words, expecting to dismantle your resolve with subtle digs and veiled accusations. But the moment they speak, a shift occurs, one they did not anticipate. The attack they intended to launch does not land. Instead, it coils inward, forcing them to see themselves in stark clarity. Their own voice betrays them, cracking under the weight of the very insecurities they sought to disguise. The confidence they carried mere moments ago falters, unraveling like a thread pulled too tight. Every attempt to dominate the exchange only magnifies what they've desperately tried to suppress. The space around them feels altered, their own reflection looming too large, too sharp, pressing in from all sides. The more they push, the deeper they sink into the labyrinth of their own unresolved turmoil. They fumble, trying to shift the blame elsewhere, to redirect the tension outward. But the damage is done. The illusion they built has fractured, revealing the chaos beneath. In the end, retreat is their only option, though even distance does little to dull the weight of what has just unfolded. The battle they thought they were fighting against you was never about you at all. It was a collision with the darkness they refused to acknowledge. They leave not only shaken, but haunted, carrying the inescapable truth that what they tried to break was merely a mirror, showing them exactly who they've always been. And you, untouched by the storm, remain, a silent reflection of what they feared most. For nothing is hidden that will not be made manifest, nor is anything secret that will not be known and come to light. Luke 8:17. They walk in, thinking they own the room. They speak with smooth tongues, believing their deception is impenetrable, that their words will move people like pieces on a chessboard. They believe they are untouchable, masters of illusion, shaping reality with nothing but their own arrogance. But what they fail to understand is this: truth does not bend to the will of deceivers. Lies do not hold their shape in the presence of the anointed. You are not just a person. They do not realize they are standing before a force of revelation, a presence that disarms deception the moment it is spoken. They begin their performance, their words laced with just the right amount of persuasion, their gestures calculated, their timing flawless. They have done this before. It has always worked. But today, something is different. The room feels heavier. Their voice, once confident, wavers ever so slightly. They glance your way, expecting compliance, expecting acceptance. But what they meet instead is a stillness that unsettles them to their core. It is not hostility. It is not resistance. It is exposure. Something inside them starts to shake, but they cannot place why. The words they once commanded now slip through their fingers, losing weight, losing control. What should have been a seamless manipulation suddenly feels uncertain. The eyes around them are no longer under their spell. Instead, people are watching, waiting. A single question leaves your lips, simple yet devastating. It is not an attack. It is not an accusation. It is a chisel against the foundation of their deception. The cracks begin to spread. The silence in the room is no longer their ally. It has turned against them. The longer they speak, the more they unravel. Their carefully spun narrative starts to fold in on itself, contradictions exposing themselves one after another. The certainty they carried begins to wither under the weight of their own words. And then comes the moment. The moment where they realize that the power they thought they held has slipped from their grasp. They shift in their seat. Their hands tremble just slightly. They try to redirect, to regain footing, but it is too late. The truth is already in the air, undeniable, unstoppable. This is what happens when deceit stands before revelation. This is what happens when a pretender meets an unshakable force. They will leave this room remembering this moment for the rest of their lives. They may never admit it, but they will know, deep in the marrow of their bones, that they were seen, that their deception was powerless here. And you move forward, unchanged, undisturbed. You never had to fight for the truth. It was always going to rise, because that is what it does in the presence of the ones who carry it. A single question emerges from your lips, precise and unforgiving, slicing through their performance like a blade through silk. Their rhythm breaks, the mask slips. They hesitate, their next words teetering between preservation and collapse. The room stills, waiting. And then the cracks spread. The foundation of their deception, once sturdy, crumbles beneath the weight of its own contradictions. They stumble over their own sentences, their once coherent tale unraveling into a tangled mess of inconsistencies. They try to redirect, to regain control, but it's too late. The truth is no longer buried. It rises, undeniable, like light piercing through fog. Others begin to see it now, not because you expose it, but because the illusion can no longer sustain itself. Panic flickers behind their eyes as the realization dawns. They are not in control of this exchange anymore. In the end, they stand with nothing. No leverage, no power, only the echoes of their failed deception ringing in their ears. The influence they sought to wield dissolves into irrelevance, leaving them defenseless before the very truth they sought to conceal. Meanwhile, you remain motionless, untouched by the chaos, not because you forced the truth forward, but because it was always destined to emerge in your presence. An unseen force that bends the world around it, shifting the currents of reality without a single deliberate act. Wherever it lingers, facades weaken, and hidden truths claw their way to the surface. Without effort, it pulls at the delicate threads people use to stitch their illusions together, unraveling the carefully maintained image they present to the world. In a space filled with controlled expressions and measured words, the air tightens upon arrival. Conversations that once flowed smoothly now stumble over unspoken grievances, as if an unseen weight presses against the walls, leaving no room for falsehoods to breathe. Someone approaches with their usual charm, their practiced lines polished by years of deception, yet something in their own voice betrays them. A slight hesitation, a fleeting glance, small cracks forming in the armor they once thought impenetrable. As time stretches, the energy in the room warps. Long-buried resentments stir just beneath the surface, simmering in those who have spent their lives suppressing them. A casual exchange shifts into a volatile revelation, words once guarded now spilling out like an untamed flood. Those who have kept their intentions obscured find their own reflections unbearable, as if the very space around them demands an honesty they are unprepared to confront. One by one, the veils lift. What was meant to be just another interaction spirals into something raw and unavoidable. Accusations slip from tongues that once only spoke in pleasantries, and old wounds that were thought to be forgotten bleed into the open. Those who have long operated in shadows find themselves exposed, not because they were challenged, but because the reality they ignored can no longer be denied. As the moment reaches its peak, all that remains is the undeniable truth. The room, once carefully held together by fragile pretense, is left in disarray. Those present search for an explanation, for a reason behind the unraveling, but deep down, they already understand. This reckoning was inevitable. Dormant fractures that needed only the right force to bring them to light. The balance they once relied on is now shattered, and as they step away from the wreckage, they do not leave unchanged. The illusion they once trusted has failed them, and whether they accept it or not, they will never see the world the same way again. Do not be deceived. Bad company corrupts good character. 1 Corinthians 15:33. There comes a time when the bridge must burn, not out of anger, not out of revenge, but because it was never meant to carry your weight in the first place. Like a tree that refuses to bear fruit, there are relationships that must be uprooted. And when that moment arrives, there is no hesitation, no pleading, no second chances, only the clean and final cut of detachment. They always think they have more time. They believe they can take and take, pushing the limits of your patience, assuming your presence is something to be earned, but your loyalty is something they can test. What they fail to understand is that you do not operate in uncertainty. You do not exist in spaces where deception is tolerated, where respect is conditional, where loyalty is a game to be played. So the warnings go unspoken. The signals are there, but they ignore them. The small betrayals, the subtle disloyalties, the disguised jabs, they think they are unnoticed. But you see it all. Every shift in tone, every flicker of insincerity. You recognize the weight of an absent presence, the hollowness behind empty words, and you wait. Not because you are unsure, but because you believe in giving people enough rope to reveal themselves. And then, when the final line is crossed, the decision is made with the swiftness of a blade through dead branches. They wake up one day, and you are simply gone. No warnings, no confrontations, no drawn-out explanations. Just a door that was once open now firmly closed, as if it never existed. They reach out, expecting a response. There is none. They search for an explanation. There is nothing to be found. What they had was a privilege, not a right. And that privilege has been revoked. The silence is suffocating. Not because they miss you, but because they are now faced with the realization that they were never as essential to your story as they believed. They were not necessary, and now they have proof. They will cycle through emotions, first confusion, then frustration, then anger. They will tell themselves that you were the problem, that you were too cold, too unfeeling. But late at night, when the room is quiet and the weight of truth presses in, they will know. They will know why you left, and they will know they can never come back. Because you don't look back. You don't reopen doors that were meant to stay shut. You don't entertain ghosts of relationships past. You move forward, lighter, unburdened, free from the weight of those who were never meant to carry the next chapter with you. And while they sit in the remnants of a connection they once thought was secure, you walk forward with the certainty of someone who understands a divine truth. Not everyone who started the journey with you was meant to finish it. By the time realization dawns on them, it is already over. Their messages go unanswered, their name erased from existence, their presence removed as swiftly as a breath exhaled into the void. They reach for understanding, for closure, but find only absence where familiarity once existed. Confusion gives way to desperation as they sift through the past, dissecting conversations, searching for the exact moment everything shifted. What they fail to grasp is that the fracture was never sudden. It was the culmination of choices they refused to acknowledge. And now, they stand in the wake of their own undoing, left to wrestle with a silence more deafening than any confrontation. The absence is suffocating, a reminder of the light they once took for granted, now reduced to a distant memory. Meanwhile, the path forward remains unburdened, untouched by regret or second thoughts. The removal was necessary, the detachment final. There is no weight to carry, no remnants to collect. The past belongs to itself now, and nothing remains but the clarity of an existence unchained. A presence that unearths what others fight to suppress, a silent force that draws hidden fractures into the light. Without effort, illusions crumble, and the truths people conceal, even from themselves, become impossible to ignore. It is not a deliberate act, nor a weapon wielded with intent, but an inevitable consequence of being near. What begins as an ordinary exchange soon takes on an unexplainable weight. Someone speaks with confidence, their words carefully chosen to maintain an image they have crafted over time. Yet, as the conversation flows, something shifts. A single remark, casual, unassuming, lands heavier than expected, striking a chord they weren't prepared to acknowledge. Their breath catches for half a second, their rhythm stumbles, and the armor they wear tightens around them like a vice. They attempt to recover, to laugh it off, or redirect the focus elsewhere, but the damage has already been done. The cracks, once invisible, widen with every passing second. The warmth in their voice turns brittle, their gestures stiffen. A quiet discomfort settles in, gnawing at the edges of their composure. Those around them may not notice, but within, a storm has begun to churn. Long after the moment has passed, the weight of it lingers. Thoughts circle back, replaying the interaction in endless loops. Every syllable, every glance, every shift in tone is dissected with increasing urgency. They try to push it away, but the mirror has already been held up, reflecting back the truths they spent a lifetime burying. The more they resist, the sharper the realization becomes. What was exposed was never hidden from you, only from themselves. And yet, you move forward, untouched by the chaos left in your wake. You do not carry the burden of what has been revealed, nor do you linger to witness the aftermath. It is not your purpose to tear down, nor to heal, only to exist as a force that makes pretense impossible. Those who cross your path are left with a choice: to confront what has surfaced or to keep running, though they know now that there is nowhere left to hide. A force of disruption, a presence that unsettles the still waters of complacency and sets the inevitable wheels of transformation in motion. Without effort or intention, the impact is undeniable. Wherever it lingers, stagnation fractures, and the structures built on comfort begin to tremble. The changes it ignites are rarely welcomed, but they are always necessary. A conversation unfolds, seemingly unremarkable, yet within it lies an unseen catalyst. Someone speaks, their words laced with certainty, their choices long justified by habit rather than passion. They have built a life on stability, mistaking familiarity for fulfillment. But something shifts. A sentence, spoken without calculation, settles into their mind like an ember. It does not burn at first, merely lingers, unnoticed. Then, over time, the ember grows. Days pass, and the thought remains, pressing against the edges of their consciousness. What was once unquestioned now feels fragile. The routines they clung to seem less like a sanctuary and more like a cage. Restlessness takes hold, gnawing at them in the quiet hours. They resist, dismissing the unease as temporary, yet the feeling persists, impossible to silence. The first cracks form in subtle ways. Hesitation where there was once certainty, dissatisfaction in places that once felt safe. They begin to see their world differently, not because they choose to, but because something fundamental has shifted beneath their feet. They grow frustrated, searching for someone to blame, as if the disturbance were an outside force rather than the echo of something they have long buried. But the truth is inescapable. The change was inevitable. It was waiting beneath the surface, needing only the right pressure to rise. The moment they feared has arrived, the confrontation with themselves, the realization that they can no longer hide behind routine and comfort. They stand at the edge of something unfamiliar, forced to choose between retreating into the illusion of security or stepping into the unknown. Meanwhile, the source of the disruption has already moved forward, unaware or indifferent to the transformation left in its wake. This was never about forcing change. It was about revealing what was always there, waiting to be seen.